Hey there, welcome to this video on the VanLab Integrated Wiring Harness, or Wiring Loom as we call it. Now the idea of this video is just to give you an overview of our integrated wiring harness, how it fits into your kit. We're going to go over some basic wiring fundamentals, take a look at the difference between 12 volt and 120 volt, and what you need for your van. We're going to look at what the role of an inverter is. And then we're going to dive a little bit more detail into the VanLab wiring harness, look at a wiring diagram, look at what's included with the kit, and then finally run through how it fits within your kit and some commonly asked questions. Now, we didn't want this video to be too much of a science lesson, but equally wanted to cover some of the basic fundamentals behind a wiring system, as this is probably the most complicated system of your van build and definitely one of the most daunting systems. So running through what is a wiring harness or a wiring loom. Now we use the terms harness and loom reasonably interchangeably, so both mean the same thing. But what is it, and why do I need one? So a wiring harness or a wiring loom simply connects all the wiring components of your van. So if we take a side profile of a ProMaster like this, you might have a max air fan on the roof, you'll have lighting in several locations, you might have a fridge, a water pump, and then you might have onboard power supplies, a USB socket, a 12 volt socket, like a cigarette style socket, a 120 volt socket for all your sort of household appliances. You might have some kind of battery monitor system in there, and then your actual power supplies, your vehicle battery in the van and your leisure battery. So we have all these individual dispersed appliances all around the van in different locations. And the wiring harness or the wiring loom is the wire that connects all of these components together. Now, not only does it connect them together in the correct way, sending the right power to the right parts of the van, it also includes all the switches to turn them on and off, and all the safety components like fuses, isolation switches, big shut-off switches for battery safety, and any kind of thermal overload switches that you might have in there as well. So it's all your electrical safety, but really fundamentally a wiring loom is the connecting part, the bit that goes between all these components. Now, within a typical campervan setup, you have requirement for a 12 volt DC, direct current, and 120 volt AC, alternating current. And this is where a lot of confusion comes into the build. So what we've got here is just a basic plot. Your van battery itself is a 12 volt DC system. All the leisure batteries are 12 volt DC systems. And then in our case, for a VanLab kit, we will recommend a 12 volt fridge, a 12 volt water pump, 12 volt socket, all the lighting's on 12 volt, your max air fan, USB chargers, all of that is on 12 volt. So you just keep everything really simple. You just connect your 12 volt battery to all those appliances. However, you might want to run some household appliances like a coffee machine, a hairdryer, induction cooker. And now these need 120 volt, and these are alternating current, and that's where the inverter comes in. So the inverter takes a 12 volt DC input and outputs 120 volt AC. The size of your inverter is basically the power that you can generate. So for example, an induction hob might be 1500 watts, or a hairdryer might be 1500, 2000 watts. So you then need to size your inverter. If you wanted to run both of those together, you would need 3000 watts of inverter power, 1500 for your induction, 1500 for your hairdryer. So you size your inverter to supply enough power for those things. The capacity of your system is your battery. So your battery will define how long you'll be able to run those appliances at that power. The bigger the battery, the longer you can run them. The bigger the inverter, the more appliances you can run. Now, typically with a VanLab kit, we try and keep things super simple. So we run the whole campervan setup on 12 volts, and then we allow you to add on an inverter specifically for the 120 volt things that you're going to run. That saves us going from 12 volt from the van up to 120, then back down to 12 to run the fridge, up to 120 to run the house appliances, back down to 5 volts for USBs. We just simplified the whole thing. So we run everything on the 12 volt system, and then we just run an inverter for your household appliances. And we can help you size that system, help you size your battery, and advise on what fits neatly into our VanLab kit. So if we actually take a look at what the VanLab wiring loom is, or wiring harness is, we've got some photos of it on the right-hand side and a very simple diagram on the left-hand side. Now, we recognize more and more that people want to change or choose or have some flexibility over their power supply. Typically 3 options here. You want to do a charge while you drive. So your van battery charges your leisure battery, and that goes to a lead acid battery. Now to do this, we'd run through a voltage sensitive relay, and our kit is compatible with that. The second option is you might want to use solar power, and you might want a lithium ion leisure battery. In order to do this, because you have a lead acid start battery, a lithium ion leisure battery, you're going to need what's called a DC-DC charger in between those two. And we can, again, advise exactly what component you would need for that. And our kit is compatible with that option. The third option, and this is becoming more popular and more common, is actually to use a portable power pack. So a Goal Zero, a Bluetti, an EcoFlow. Use that as your power supply, but you still then want to be able to power all these different and dispersed appliances throughout the van, like the lighting and the fridge and the water pump. So you still need a wiring loom or a wiring harness to get you from your Bluetti or your Goal Zero to all of those places around the van. And our kit is also compatible with that. So no matter what power supply you want up front, then you can get the VanLab wiring loom downstream, and we provide 3 separate sort of wiring iterations in the same loom. It's just one product to allow you to run those 3 options. From that point, you have a battery switch to isolate the batteries. We go through a fuse board, and then we run out onto individually fused circuits so that we're electrically safe for all our circuits. We then, starting at the top, we have a switch off to the water pump, so you can have a 12-volt supply to your water pump under your sink. We have a switched power supply to a max air fan or any air fan that's going to go on your roof, and the wire lengths are all cut to size for that. We have a 12-volt supply to your fridge. We provide 2 double USB sockets with USB-C and USB-A. We then have 2 lighting circuits. So one is switched with a power supply to 2 lights. This is really handy if you want to run maybe a separate lighting in the garage system and then a main light above the bed and a main light above the kitchen. 2 lighting circuits and both individually switched. And then we have a very basic battery monitoring system. So we have a voltmeter to show you the battery voltage of your leisure battery and also to show you the battery voltage of your van battery. Now, typically for these types of batteries, we would see something between sort of 13.1 to maybe 11.5 volts. And you'll just have an LED display showing you the voltage, which basically is the battery health of the 2 batteries. So you can decide when you need to top them up. As I was saying earlier, that's all 12 volts. So everything's 12 volt coming straight off your van battery, straight off your leisure battery. Then if you wanted to run a coffee machine, a hairdryer, induction cooktop, you can add in an optional 120 volt AC inverter. Important to note, that's not provided with the kit because depending on what you want to run, you would size it differently. But our team are really happy to help in sizing that inverter and defining which component would fit within your VanLab kit. Just taking a look at the loom now, because it is a DIY kit, of course we can install it, but it is designed as a DIY kit, and we've designed it to try and make it as simple to install as possible. And I think the real key thing here is to show you the picture third in from the left on the top. And you can see a number of wires there, white and brown. But if you look closely, you can also see that those wires have the location of the wire printed on them. So you can see fridge P, that's the power supply to the fridge. You can see water pump P, power supply to the water pump. So every single wire has its exact location printed on it, and you'll see it's pre-finished. So we have the bullet connectors on that one. If you look to the picture on the left, you can see everything is on spade terminals. The components we provide have the male spade terminal on them, and the wiring loom has the female spade. Also, all the holes will be cut in your kit for the picture on the left. So you've got the USB charger in there, you've got your voltmeters in there, you've got all your switch gear. So you just put the components in, screw them up from the back, and then connect the spades based on what the wires have printed on them. On the bottom, you can see that's the main loom. It's a lot of wire involved. It's all double insulated. So it's insulated round and then sheathed around the outside. And on the left-hand side of that image, you can see the fuse board. So it's all individually fused circuits. And then on the bottom right, you can see that's our start splice. So that's the part of the loom that will actually connect your van battery to your main wiring loom. And then everything's taken off to your individual appliances from that point onwards. Finally, we're just going to run through some FAQs, frequently asked questions. We do understand this is probably one of the most complicated and most daunting parts of the van build, but we've really tried to do everything we can to provide you with a simple but very effective 12-volt system that's able to be scaled based on whatever size battery and whatever size inverter you'd like to add. So first question is, how does the wiring loom fit within my kit? Well, as I mentioned, all the holes are pre-drilled in the kit, all the wiring is pre-cut and pre-crimped, and all the storage areas are pre-sized for our recommended battery and inverter sizes. So just get in touch with our team and we can tell you exactly which batteries you should be buying to make sure that they're going to fit within the VanLab kit. Are there instructions? Of course. We have a very detailed instruction manual that comes with every kit, but also our team are more than happy to help if you get halfway through and are looking for a bit of advice. The next one's really key. What is not included in the VanLab wiring loom? Well, we don't provide the leisure battery because it really depends on how much capacity you want for your build and depending on what you want to be doing. So if you're going off grid, you might want larger batteries. If you're using it sort of weekend warrior, smaller batteries. Again, we can advise on where to put those batteries and the sizes of them, but we don't provide them because that's kind of depending on how you want to use your van. The DC-DC charger, again, not provided, but we'll provide a link to which one we recommend. And again, that's because depending on what power supply you're using, you might not need a DC-DC charger. And if you do, we'll just advise on which one. The inverter, again, up to you to size it, decide exactly how much power you want to run. If you want to run just a laptop, you might only need 300 watts. Laptop's about sort of 70, 80, maybe 100 watts. But if you want to run a coffee machine and a hairdryer, you might need 3,000 watts. So it's up to you to size that and we can advise on where that would go. And then finally, any kind of solar that will bolt on through the DC-DC charger. It can be sort of added to the system, but we don't provide it. If it's something you'd like to add, then that's no problem. Everything else downstream will work just fine. The final question is, can you install this for me? And of course we can. We have a dedicated electrical team at our Simi Valley workshop in California, and we can install the full kit for you with the wiring loom itself or just the wiring loom components. Typically, it is easier to put the wiring up before the panels go in and then the furniture kit goes in on top of that. So if it's something that you would like us to do, then we can look at how we install the whole thing. On our smaller vans, like the Nissan MV200, Ford Transit Connect, Chevy City Express, or on any of our passenger vans that don't have paneling, it's actually reasonably straightforward to retrospectively fit the wiring loom, so we can take care of that. Again, depending on the situation, the van, and where you're at with your build, just reach out to our team and we'll be able to advise. Okay, so that's like a really quick overview of the integrated wiring loom that we offer at VanLab. It fits within all our kits. It's scalable, it's simple, and it's super effective. Any further questions, we have links in the description below on how to find the loom and how to contact our team. And I hope this video helps. Thanks very much.